Hello everyone, welcome back to another Doctor Who Big Finish video. In today's Doctor Who Big Finish video, I'm talking about a recent sale that is happening on the Big Finish website, which is Doctor Who Meets Historical Figures. I think that this sale is to coincide with the release of Strange Chemistry, where we have the 4th Doctor and Leela meeting Marie Curie. I've not listened to that release yet. There will be a review out coming up in the next week or so. I've got a few Big Finish reviews coming out soon, which like The Demon Song, Return of Jo Jones and New Frontiers, so plenty of Big Finish reviews upcoming in the near future. So if you like Big Finish, this is the place to be, plus some more recommendations. So I thought I'd talk about this sale because Big Finish do so many wonderful historical adventures, whether that be pure historical or pseudo-historical, and I've picked 6 releases from this sale. I'll leave a link in the description below to the sale, and I'll put a little thing there so you can see what releases are on sale within this actual sale itself. And if you're watching this in the future and the sale's not happening, then you know what stories to look out for when they do go on sale. I would love to do a video talking about all the historical adventures Big Finish do and picking my 10 favourites, because they have such a wealth, whether that be pure historical or pseudo. But we're here to talk about the ones that are on sale. But before we dive into the recommendations, if you want this to become a sort of series where I take a look at Big Finish sales and give you some recommendations, whether you're a new person getting into Big Finish or you're a Big Finish aficionado, it gives you a chance to sort of reevaluate and re-listen to stories you might have sitting on your shelves. But before we do that, if you're enjoying this video, then please do like and subscribe, because there's plenty of Big Finish related content on the channel and upcoming in the near future. With that out of the way, let's take a look at my first recommendation. So my first recommendation is where it all began for Doctor Historicals, and that is a First Doctor release, which is the First Doctor Adventures Volume 4 with David Bradley and the Invention Space and Time people playing the characters of Ian, Barbara and Susan. I think that this volume is the best the David Bradley range has to offer. There is another David Bradley set on offer, which is Volume 5, which has a cracking historical, The Hollow Crown, which is a Tudor story with exploring more of Shakespeare's family background. But Volume 4 is where it's at, because you have a great sci-fi story in the form of Return to Skaro. But we're not going to talk about that, because this is about Doctor Who Historicals, and brilliant story by Andrew Smith. But Jonathan Barnes' Last of the Romanoffs is a beautifully emotionally charged story, talking about the last of the Romanovs, as we have the Tsar of Russia basically trying to get rid of him. It's a Russian revolution, and it's very much like the Aztecs, as the Doctor and Barbara are well aware of what's happening around them, and it just goes quite bleak and dark, and it shows that humans are just as scary as anything like the Daleks. And it's bleak, there's a nice heart to it, especially the way it utilises Susan and Barbara trying to infiltrate the actual house where like the last of the Romanoffs are. It's tremendous, great world building, and it's a story where you're trying to hold back the tears at the end of it. And I'm just going to say one word: chimney sweep. If you've listened to it, you'll know what I mean. And yeah, it's such a great story for the main cast. David Bradley's Doctor's finally being written for him, instead of just writing the First Doctor as it is, because I think as the range progresses, the writers write more for David Bradley's interpretation of the First Doctor, and I think that this is a great example of David Bradley as the First Doctor, and like I say, this is the best the David Bradley range has to offer. My next recommendation, this is what made this video sort of 6 recommendations instead of 5. I'm putting this one on because of, one, it's a great set of stories, but I think I'm putting on it mainly because of what's happening in November, and that is the 4th Doctor comic strip adaptations Volume 1, which contains the Iron Legion and the Star Beast. Now, if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock for a few months, you'll know that Beat the Meep is returning to the show in live action. Incredibly exciting, and this box set contains the first Beat the Meep story, The Star Beast. And I think that if you want to check out the original source material for The Star Beast, then you can. It's a tremendous story, a lot of fun, and it's the 4th Doctor. These 2 stories are basically the 4th Doctor on a massive sugar rush. It's so out there and outlandish 4th Doctor, and great bits of comedy within it. I think the reason why this is on this list is because of the Iron Legion with a robot Roman army. And that's a great story because that was the first Doctor Who comic to feature in Doctor Who Weekly, or Doctor Who Magazine as we know it. It's a tremendous box set. Me and Luke have reviewed it back in January, so there's a full review of it. But I'm mainly putting it on this video because it's on sale, and I think if you haven't checked out the Star Beast and you want to get an idea of who Beep the Meep is, you can do, because Beep the Meep definitely does rival Baby Yoda or Grogu. So yeah, great box set, and yeah, definitely worth your time. And like I say, you need to pick it up ready for, you know, get a bit of a history lesson on who Beep the Meep is, and yeah, you get to then sort of compare what version you prefer, whether you prefer the audio, the comic, or the TV version. So yeah. My next recommendation is an 8th Doctor story, which is The Silver Turk, which is the first story in the 8th Doctor and Mary Shelley trilogy, containing the Silver Turk, Witch from the Well, and the Army of Death. Now there is a little bonus Mary Shelley story in The Company of Friends, which is basically the introduction story, but you don't really need it to enjoy The Silver Turk. Now, The Silver Turk holds a special place in my heart, and I guess this whole trilogy, as it was one of the first Big Finish trilogies I listened to, and I think that this is a perfect story. It's a great spooky tale. Jamie Robinson's sound design really aids the sort of macabre nature, because this is basically Mary Shelley getting the inspiration for Frankenstein, really. There's a great sort of existentialism for Mary Shelley's character when she meets the Cybermen. The Cybermen are tremendous. It really explores their body horror nature and how they're sort of kind of animalistic, as you have like Cybermen with like 3 arms, and just there's some really creepy stuff, and I think Nick Briggs really brings in that sort of creepy element to the Cybermen in his performance. McGann has such life and vigour and is excited, and I think that this is a real great sort of macabre story. Now, Mark Platt has wrote so many great Cyberman stories, and you know, if it's got Mark Platt and a Cybermen in it, you know that it's going to be a cracking story. And I think The Silver Turk is a tremendous, spooky, gothic tale. You know, it feels like it fits in the Philip Hinchcliffe era. If you like Philip Hinchcliffe Doctor Who, then you'll have a field day with this, because it is just a great action adventure story. And yeah, got some real creepy moments how it explores sort of the Cyberman sort of robotic nature, and also the body horror as well. It's a great mishmash of gothic, you know, the person who technically originated sci-fi, Mary Shelley, in the world of Doctor Who. It's a real great story, and one of my favourite Big Finish stories of all time. My next recommendation is a 5th Doctor story, The Kingmaker, featuring the 5th Doctor, Erimim and Perry. Now this is by Nev Fountain, and if you know Nev Fountain, he is very good at sort of black comedy. This story is full of his witty and sharp, clever dialogue, and it's just tremendous. And I think Nev Fountain, as a writer, really gets the idea and concept of Doctor Who, and this story really uses time to its advantage, and he definitely is up there with rivaling Stephen Moffat in terms of sort of timey-wimey nature story, and this is very much that. The villain of the story is such a clever twist, and it's a story where it uses history to its advantage in terms of mystery, with like Richard III and William Shakespeare. The reveal for William Shakespeare is actually kind of very clever and kind of tragic at the same time. It's brilliant. It's full of so many little Easter eggs, like Doctor Who discovers, as you have John Coleshaw playing the 4th Doctor in it. Very clever little reference to that series of Doctor Who books. It's just a lot of fun, and again, it's a great early 5th Doctor Big Finish release. I think the 5th Doctor, in terms of his sort of Big Finish journey, he has some real great stories, and I think that this is one of the great early 5th Doctor stories. Within there, I think that this is probably my favourite Perry and Erimim story. It's just a real sharp, clever story. My next recommendation is a 6th Doctor story, which is the Marion Conspiracy. Now, if you are a Big Finish fan, you'll know that this is a big story, because this is the start of the Colin Baker master plan, as I like to call it. The idea of softening Sixie down and giving him a new companion in the form of Evelyn Smythe. And Evelyn Smythe, you will fall in love with instantly. She is such a sweetheart. It's basically the Doctor travelling with your nan in the TARDIS. I mean, what more do you want? It's brilliant. And she is a tremendous character. I think once you listen to this, you'll want to check out all the other Evelyn Smythe stories, because this is a great introduction story, as we have the Doctor trying to track this nexus point, which leads the Doctor and Evelyn to Tudor England. Again, I've noticed that most of the stories on this list are sort of Tudor England based, where we have this sort of explores the politics of the Protestant and Catholics, as this is the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn meeting Bloody Mary herself. It's a tremendous historical, again, sparkling dialogue, and I think that this is a piece of Big Finish history which every person should experience, because it's the start of softening the Sixth Doctor, and it's Evelyn Smythe, one of the most iconic audio companions, if not the most iconic audio companion out there. Tremendous. And you'll want to check out Evelyn Smythe's journey, because she has so many amazing stories, and yeah, just marathon the Evelyn Smythe stuff, because this is a real great jumping on point. If you want to get into Big Finish, I recommend the Marion Conspiracy as well, because it's just a great jumping on point. My final recommendation for this is another Fourth Doctor adventure. It is a Series 1 Fourth Doctor adventure, and that is The Wrath of the Iceni. Now, this is not set in Tudor England, it's set in Roman Britain, as we have Leela teaming up with Boudica herself, and this is such an interesting story exploring the Fourth Doctor and Leela's dynamic, as we have Leela going against the Doctor, going, no, I'm going to stand with Boudica, and the idea of a warrior of the Sever team, you know, teaming up with Boudica herself. It's a match made in heaven, and I think John Dorney does a brilliant job. There are so many great sound designs, especially with all the battle sequences, and it's just interesting to see two characters we love in the form of the Fourth Doctor and Leela sort of butting heads with each other. And I think that this is the first story where we start to explore sort of the Doctor and student dynamic, really. So I think that it's a great story where Leela sort of comes to her senses, and yeah, it's a real interesting story for that. And I think Boudica, great character, and like I say, a great pairing to have Leela and Boudica spar off each other. So yeah, tremendous Fourth Doctor adventure. For an hour it just whistles by, and I highly recommend it. It's one of the best early Fourth Doctor adventures, and probably one of my favourite Fourth Doctor adventures in the whole range itself. So there we have it. That is my 6 recommendations for Doctor Who meets historical figures. Yeah, the comic strip adaptations, I don't get how it's there in terms of Doctor Who meeting historical figures, but I thought I'd put it there because of the 60th anniversary. So if you've enjoyed this video, like I say, please do like and subscribe for plenty more Big Finish related content coming up in the near future. And if you want to see me do more videos covering the Big Finish salesman, please do comment down below, because it'd be great to sort of give you people recommendations if you're struggling and you want to pick out some Big Finish for a cheaper price. So yes, thank you very much for watching this video. I'll see you next time for more Doctor Who shenanigans. Bye bye.